Welcome, because I think this is a really important presentation. Because none of us goes through cancer alone, or hopefully none of us goes through cancer alone. So this is about the caregiver. But I also see there are patients in the room, and I'm really pleased that you're here, because that means you care about your caregiver, and you want to be a partnership with whoever that is to make sure you're working as a team. Now, I have some tips for the caregiver, and I hope they're helpful, because the truth is it is a marathon, it isn't a sprint. There's a lot to do as a caregiver. There's a lot to pay attention to. And first, let's just pay attention to the definition. You know, there are informal caregivers and there are formal caregivers. The definitions are up on the screen. I would venture to say the majority of us in this room, and the majority of us listening, by the way, welcome if you're listening virtually, are informal caregivers. Friends, family, significant other, however you identify yourself. But you're informal. No one's paying you for the job you're doing. You're doing it out of love, out of kindness, out of respect, sometimes out of necessity, or sometimes because you don't want to, but you're the only one to do it. When someone you love is diagnosed with any cancer, today we're talking about prostate cancer, but the truth is it's any cancer. You have to find that you quickly become a specialist. And you might be a financial advisor as you're handling, Joanne is a genius. Full disclosure, she's also a friend of mine. I'm telling you guys, she's a genius. To understand all of this and create, along with her sister and her colleagues, that kind of information so that you and I get it, you have to be a genius to do that. Well, you know what, when you've never been in this role before, many of us in the caregiving role also become specialists, geniuses in financial information, what we need to know. What about medical translator? I am constantly, one of the joys of the job that I have is that I get to work with our family medicine and internal medicine residents. And believe it or not, I teach them how to listen. I know they have 2 ears, they're supposed to know how to listen. But along with teaching them how to listen, I also remind them that they speak medicalese. It just is a quick, and they should, by the way, before I make fun of them, let me say they should speak that way, because they have to speak the same language to each other and to the medical team so that everyone is on the same page right away in understanding what each other is talking about, right? That makes total sense, except that you and I usually don't get that. So a caregiver also finds themselves in many ways playing translator between the patient and the medical team. And certainly, a caregiver can be a great source of emotional support, sometimes at their expense. So that's what we're going to talk about a little today as well. When you are a caregiver, you hold quite a bit of authority in decision-making. As I said, you're there financially, you may be a translator, you're emotionally there, but you're making a lot of decisions. You're looking at the person you're caring for, and you're seeing, how are they? What are they doing? You're communicating, as we spoke about, with healthcare professionals, and you're acting as an advocate for the person you're caring for. When we did some studies and we looked at this, and by the way, this study is from 2015, but I checked the numbers, they have not changed significantly in all that time. So you are reporting that 66% find that they're monitoring the care. 63% of caregivers found that they were the communicators, and 50% were acting as advocates. Those are big numbers, and that's a lot on a caregiver's shoulder on top of a whole life that they're leading that doesn't have anything to do with caregiving for the patient. There was another study in the Journal of Family Nursing, and you can see the numbers there below. When we talk about the physical toll of caregiving on someone, 70% of caregivers reported taking 1 to 10 medications a day. Now, I will give you that we tend to be older when we're taking on this role, and as we get older, we take more medications. But it's still a significant number. 62% said their oral health had suffered as a result. If you joined us yesterday, and I understand I came in late, and I'm sorry that I did, to the presentation earlier with our nurse practitioner and board member, but she also talked about the stress of being a cancer patient. The stress is the same for being, just in a different way, being a caregiver. So 62% reported their own health had suffered, and 25% reported having significant physical limitations of their own. If you saw me walk up these stairs just a little bit ago, you might have picked up that I have a right knee that does not work. It's held together with 13 screws and 3 feet of wire. I'm lucky that it works at all, but it really hampers what I can do. And when I had to be the caregiver for my husband, who's 6'3" and a big guy, it really took a lot. And I'm a big girl and I'm an ex-athlete and I am strong. It took a lot physically for me to be able to help him physically, and it really took its toll on me. So why is it important to know all of this? Some more statistics for you. And mostly so that the caregivers in the room don't feel like you're not being heard, don't feel like no one understands what you're going through. And for the patients in the room, and I'm sorry if you don't like being called patients, you give me another word, I'd be happy to use it, but to make it quick and easy, for the prostate patients in the room, what's it like for them? So 80% reported they've resented having care periodically, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, because everything is not kumbaya all the time. It never is in a relationship. I don't care what your relationship is. Significant other, child to parent, brother to brother, sister to sister, friend to friend. It's never always perfect. No relationship is. 54% visited friends and family less as caregivers. They're tired. They are tired. We tried 3 times to float a caregiver information and support group at our cancer center, 3 times over a course of 6, 7, 8 years. Each time it failed. And when we did our fact-finding on why, it was really simple. The caregivers were just too tired. They didn't want to come. So now what are we going to do? Virtual. What does ZERO do? Virtual. So I think that's important. 35% were overwhelmed. Well, that's no surprise to anyone, is it? Life is overwhelming to begin with. Again, we talked about that stress and distress yesterday. But 75% said their roles were important. That's a huge takeaway. Pay attention to that number. And then 81% stated they wanted to provide care and could not live with themselves if they didn't. 46% reported inadequate financial resources. Today, many of us are in 2-people-earner households. It is rare, and if you can stay home, good for you, you're lucky. And we are talking about prostate cancer. Women don't get prostate cancer. So it's important to understand that there's a lot of financial stress and a missing of work for the earner that's doing the caregiving. And then, of course, older spousal caregivers, ages 66 to 96. There's a large percentage of stress and a high mortality rate. And yes, that does go with the high mortality rate as we get older, period. But again, something significant. So if we have high levels of psychological burden as a caregiver, what does that look like? How can we identify that? And once we identify it again, if we identify it, we can work on it. We can come up with a plan. We can come up with a solution. So again, based on all those statistics, I'm sure none of you are surprised to hear that caregivers talk about often feeling helpless or out of control. There's a sense of unwanted aloneness. This is all on me. This is overwhelming for me. I am tired. There's some guilt, although when I did come in the tail end of our nurse practitioner's presentation, I wanted to say this is a guilt-free zone. To digress for a minute, there are reasons for all the emotions we have. And while some of them, feeling helpless, sad, alone, may have negative consequences, we can also find some positive in them in some way. There is nothing positive to take away from guilt. 0. Nothing. So I really, really urge you all, if you have that sense of, it's all my fault, to let it go, because it will do nothing for you except keep you up at night. There are psychological burdens, of course, that result in some anger or resentment, as the previous slide showed. They have to make a lot of decisions for their loved one. I'm going to talk a little bit about that pull back and forth later and some future slides. All on top of this while being expected to provide encouragement, companionship, compassion, understanding. How many of you have raised toddlers? Not that I'm calling you guys toddlers, it's not where I'm going with this, I promise. But how many of you have raised toddlers? Do you remember how exhausting that was? Because you had to be everything for them. That's the point, okay? So when you're a caregiver, if you're not identifying what's going on and you're not reaching out and making plans to work together as a team or get that help elsewhere from others, that's how you're going to feel. You're going to feel helpless and alone and exhausted and angry and resentful, and we don't want that to happen, and it doesn't have to happen. So I painted a kind of gloomy picture, which isn't my nature, and I'm sorry about that, because I want to see into there are things that are very positive about being in a caregiver role, that are very important about being in a caregiver role. You can establish a deeper connection with that loved one as you share a significant trauma and walk through it together. That binds you together. There's better communication. We're going to talk about how you do that in a minute. Your priorities become much clearer as a couple, regardless of what type of couple, again, that you are. And there's a stronger commitment to each other as you take on this role and allow someone to take on the role for you. And certainly for the caregiver, there is an increased sense of self. I'm doing this. I can do this. There are tools and people and ways to get this done. And good for me for being able to do so. So there are two tasks in caregiving. Hello, of course there are. The first one, the priority, is taking care of the person you're caregiving for. I mean, that just makes sense, doesn't it? But the other task is taking care of yourself. How do you do that? Anyone want to share? No? Okay. The first is balance. You have to balance out what's going on because this is a caregiver's role, truthfully. You have tasks you have to get done. You have burdens that the tasks you have to get done, some of them are burdensome. You may not want to do them. They may not be good. They may be difficult to get done. That's a burden. But there's joy and support underneath both of those, and that's how you get tasks and burdens done. There are ABCs of caregiving. This is a takeaway. I always like a takeaway, and it's got to be simple. The ABCs of caregiving, remember these, please, and use them. Use them in your discussions with yourself, your internal discussion, and use them in your discussion with each other. We're talking about awareness, balance, and connection. So let's go through them. With awareness, you are the caregiver, and it brings a whole new set of demands. We've talked about them already. And a whole new set of opportunities. What are you feeling as the caregiver? Because you're in this for the long haul. It isn't a sprint to the end. You're not dashing there. Someone said that earlier in a presentation. I believe a physician who presented earlier said, let's think of prostate cancer as a chronic condition that we deal with through our lives. And you have to get and develop to a point, this is not my slide, I stole this slide. I'm just telling you this now because I don't like the term new normal, but I got permission to steal it. Because you have to develop and get used to, this is what life is like now. Once again, it's not normal. There's nothing normal about it. It's just what life is now. Life has changed. I just happen to really like this for caregivers. I'm really behind on all of my living because that's what happens to all of us when we take on the role. Maybe not the whole time, but certainly in the beginning. We feel like we have no life of our own. It's all about other. I'm seeing heads, even with the lights in my eyes, I'm seeing heads nod. So when we talk about the ABCs, and we're talking about balance. This is a great quote. It is very old. If you are in any way insulted by the use of man and him, you can switch to woman and herself. It's one of the most beautiful compensations of this life that no man or woman can sincerely try to help another without first helping him, herself. Now, we've heard this through our lives in one form or another. It is acutely important to remember and bring into your consciousness and make you aware of it when you're in the role of caregiver. So we have some strategies. I love strategies. I'm all about strategies. I'm not going to give you things to do and then not give you a way to do it. That's not fair. So here they are, and I know they make sense to all of you. And again, if you joined us yesterday, you heard me speak about some of these. But let's revisit some of those physical strategies about sleeping well, eating well. Stretching is an interesting one for me. Exercise we've talked about. And the reason is most of us don't realize that when we are acutely concentrating or maybe doing something we're not really appreciating, or we're anxious, or things are going bad, what do you think we do? We tighten. Now, we may not tighten so you can see it with the face I made. We may clench our jaw, TM joint, temporomandibular joint, that tight jaw, right? We may be clutching inwardly. It's really important to remember to stretch it out. Let everything go and move it and shake it. We talk about psychological strategy, self-reflection. Are you having discussion with yourself? When you lose your temper and you've blurted out something and you stomp out of the room, I know no one here has ever done that. But when you do it, because of course you have, stop for a minute. What just happened? How was I feeling? That's a self-reflection. Do you get pleasure in reading? Take a moment. Or does reading frighten you because all you're reading about is prostate cancer? Remember, we're talking about caregivers here. Learn to say no. Smile. Someone said laughter. That old saying, laughter is the best medicine. Remember I told you I'm a cancer survivor? My treatment, there wasn't so much to laugh about. So I'm not so sure about finding laughter per se, but you can find something to smile about. Something that kind of gives you a giggle now and again. And what about solitude? Balance. All of us need a little alone time. All of us need that time to just self-reflect. But at the same time, you're isolating yourself. Be careful about that. So note the strategies. The emotional strategies certainly make sense, don't they? Be with friends. Let the emotion out to cry. Kick a pillow, punch a pillow. Not a person, just a pillow's fine. Don't kick the dog. We have laughter again. Gratitude lists are really, really helpful. Really important. Write it down. When we put things in writing, it becomes that much stronger and clearer to most of us. As a matter of fact, the reason we have journaling and writing classes often in the cancer setting is because many people can't express their feeling in words, the spoken word, but they can write it down. At our cancer center, we have a dance program where our local professional dance troupe listens to some of the stories of our cancer patients, and then they choreograph their stories and dance for them to express their feelings. It's really quite beautiful. But find that place and a strategy emotionally to let go. And in your workplace, we talked about many couples are work couples. What are you doing at work? Are you taking those breaks? Are you setting limits, not bringing work home? Are you seeking peer support in any way, shape, or form? Not that you have to spill your guts at work. People are like, it's my private life. But it's okay to say, I'm having some issues at home, so I'm a little slow in getting that done, but I will. Get some support. And take vacations. And it could be an hour vacation, or it could be a 2-week vacation. When we think of balance, besides strategies, we have to consider, what are we balancing? How can you help maintain the stability of your home and family? Because as a caregiver, that becomes your role. It may be a temporary role. You may have always shared it, but it's a bigger burden now. How can you help ensure the family income is maintained? For those of you that have someone that you're caring for, that at the moment, again, whether short or long term, can no longer work and bring an income in, or maybe they bring disability income in, but it's done this to your income. So how can you as the caregiver get that done and balance all of that? Who else can assist you and how can they assist you? But I was just blown away by the information Joanna shared with us, truthfully. I mean, that was just, think about that. triagecancer.org, you guys. Look at all the info for insurance and disability and questions, and it's just breathtaking to me. So Who and where else can you get assistance and help, and how? And can you manage the physical care needed? And if your significant other is in the process of having really a lot of treatment, can you handle the medicalization at home? Is there a walker? Is there a wheelchair? Are there bottles of pills? Look at all of those and figure out how to balance them and how to prioritize them. And then what to do when you're out of balance. You don't want to fall, and that's what happens. We teeter when we're out of balance. How do you not fall? Well, it's really an important time to increase social support. Even though you think you don't have enough time to do so, you have to find that time. Maintain very task-focused behaviors. This is a time to go, okay, I'm going to get this done. That's done. Now I'm going to over here, I'm going to get this done. I'm finished here. It helps you control what has to be done. It also remember when you were in school and a paper was due? And how you agonized over getting the paper or the studying for the test and you were all anxious, and how much better you felt when it was done? That's what maintaining task-focused behaviors means. Sometimes you need to increase emotional distancing if you're feeling overwhelmed. Some of us, many of us, are caregivers, have friends who need a lot from us. We all have one of those friends, usually, one time or another. You may have to distance a little so that you can take better care and balance for yourself. And then cognitive self-talk. So I'm trying to remember who it was, put up cognitive behavioral therapy at the beginning of the summit. But cognitive self-talk is exactly what it sounds like. Thoughtful, cognitive, thinking, self-taught. Okay, Allie, you've been there before. You've taken care of your dad. You did it well, you were good at it. Yes, you were tired, but you can do this again. Take a deep breath, remember what worked for you. That's all cognitive self-talk is. And then feel better doing for others. And again, I think we spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? Altruism is a wonderful thing. Again, manage your time and your tasks. But you really feel better if you get out of yourself and get out of the house and get out of your significant other for just a while. So we talk about ABCs, awareness, balance, connection. Connection is huge. You can throw darts at me. It's okay if this doesn't work for you. It's just over years of experience. It may not always be the case. This is a very general presentation. But men are, I put often in. Often men focus on fixing problems. That's what they do. Sometimes less likely to show emotion, but that's okay because I want to fix a problem. Women usually appreciate problem solving. And the way they problem solve is to talk. Let's talk it through. Let's get to an end point by talking. Don't go from here to here. Problem done. We did it. That's great. All done. Thank you, honey. No, I don't need to talk about it. It's all done. No, wait. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about how I feel. I want to talk about how you feel. So it's a very, very different way of approaching if you're a female caregiver of a prostate patient. Because often women don't feel valued without emotional connection. And the best way women get emotional connection, more often than not, is by talking. And we will talk about sex, I promise. You did already, and we're going to talk about it again for emotional connection. So what are connection strategies? For the caregiver, it's to be responsive to your loved one. What do they actually want? Well, how would you know if you don't ask them? We're not mind readers. Every time you try to be a mind reader, I promise you you're going to get in trouble and it's going to cause a disagreement or an argument. Be careful. We're not mind readers, okay? You know, your partner usually is worried much about you as you are about them. So this is what I see often happens when I'm working with couples or in a group. What's going on? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? Well, he won't talk. He never talks. He won't tell me how he's feeling. I'm trying here. If we hang in there long enough, what we really find out is what he's saying or not saying is, look, I don't want to burden you. I love you. This is enough on you. I'll take care of it. I'm okay. I'm more worried about you than you are about me. I don't want to talk about this because I'm afraid I'm going to die. And that's the last thing you want to hear. You don't want to hear that I think I'm going to die, or I could die, or I'm scared. So I don't want to talk about it. And what she's saying is, everything's great. Really, everything's fine. Honey, isn't everything fine? Everything's wonderful. Really, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want him to know that I'm worried that he might die, that I could lose him, the love of my life, that I'm going to have to raise these children alone, be the one to walk our daughter down the aisle, be the one respond. I don't want to talk about that. So nobody's talking, are they? They're just smiling at one another. Nothing gets accomplished when you do that. We have to connect, and we can't connect if we don't communicate. It's hugely important. Don't impose positive attitude. Some recent cancer research actually showed maintaining a sense of optimism or a positive attitude is not beneficial because it's not truly how a patient feels. So no Pollyanna stuff. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for anyone. Have a list of tasks for each other. What can I do for you? What can I ask you to do for me? Oh, and by the way, what can I ask friends? Because most of us don't live in a vacuum, and we have caring family and caring neighbors, and we're at a certain age. We might have teenage, college age, or marriage age children. They want to help. Don't shut them out. Get a task together. Give them something to do. Give them the thing you hate to do most, whatever it is. Let them do it. Me, I don't cook. I don't cook. I never cooked. I'm never going to cook. I can't believe my children didn't starve. I don't cook. So when I was taking care of my husband, what I said was, could you stop by and stop by TJ's and get me some chicken and a salad for the dinner tonight? Connect. Connect with each other by being honest and real and not fake fronts. And connect with those who want to help. It does make a huge difference. Zero Connect, right? Online, do we still have Zero Connect? Okay, just want to make sure I'm not, because this is a slide from 3 years ago, just this one. I want to make sure that we still have Zero Connect now more than ever. Telephone, online buddies. In this day, what we learned, if nothing else from this pandemic, what did we learn? The value of Zoom. The value of, hello, you guys, being able to join us virtually, join each other virtually. Have you ever used FaceTime? So I live on the West Coast. My whole family lives on the East Coast. My only granddaughter was born. Of course, I was there for her, and then I wasn't. So we FaceTimed, sometimes every day. When I got to Florida, and she was about 2.5, almost 3, and jumped right on my lap. Nanny, 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 oh my goodness. And then she went like this. And then she started smiling. Do you know why she did this? Because that's how I appeared to her on the iPad every day on a small screen. But it's a wonderful way to connect. And it's hugely important. Because if you're not feeling well and you don't want to go out, and this is for the caregiver, and you're tired, do those virtual support groups, the virtual caregiver support groups. Get out of the house and just do something fun. Just a little enjoyable just for you. Maybe for an hour, maybe for 20 minutes. And then reach out and get help, because that's really important as well. And we talked earlier, and again, we heard our nurse practitioners speak about information and support groups. If you want to be an effective caregiver, so we have the strategies. Now we've identified the feelings. We've identified communication. We've talked about some strategies. So what makes you effective? Well, just have the healing power of a human presence. That makes you effective. Good for you. You're there. You're showing empathy for yourself and for others. Notice it doesn't say sympathy. We say empathy. You're showing respect, just being authentic in your feelings by communicating. You're flexible. There's mutual participation. You invite the person you're caring for in. But you're also very direct. You maintain control of what has to be done, and you're responsible. These are the effective tools, or the tools that make a caregiver effective. You need to understand stress. We did talk about that yesterday quite a bit. It's a strenuous role, often stressful to be in. So you need to take a break, which was mentioned numerous times. You need to recognize one of my favorite old-time social work sayings. I mean, old, guys. Remember, I trained over 40 years ago, which I can't believe, but I did. Anger masks sadness. Usually, especially in a relationship, when someone is getting angry and putting that anger towards you, they are often masking sadness. It's hugely important to remember that, and very helpful to you as a caregiver, because I don't want you to be a dish rag, and verbal abuse is never okay and not allowed. That's not what I'm talking about. But if anger during the day is being directed at you, and especially when your significant other doesn't realize that's what they're doing, it's very helpful to you to remind yourself, you know what, I remember that saying, anger masks sadness. He's just sad, it's been a lousy day, just got lousy news from the doctor. Treatment's not working the way we had hoped, and we need more treatment. Okay? And make sure you let professionals in when you need them. Because if your significant other is getting angry way too much, if you're feeling way too overwhelmed and you can't take a break from caring for them, they may need more help than you can give, and you may need more help yourself personally. So reach out. Let your healthcare team know. Who's your healthcare team? Your provider, your physician, your nurse practitioner, your nurse, your radiation therapist, your social worker, they're all there. Perhaps it's a chaplain, a rabbi, imam, whoever you go to for your spiritual guidance and support. Perhaps they're the ones that can help you get through your caregiving role. When you understand stress and anxiety, and again, we did talk about this a bit yesterday, then you understand that these feelings are really very normal, and you can label them for yourself. For yourself. How nervous are you? How tense are you? Walking around like this all the time? I love walking into a room and looking at my team and going, would y'all please drop your shoulders from your ears? And everybody starts to giggle because they didn't realize they were here. So do me a favor, roll them back and drop them. The tension you feel, tension headache, right? You know, that panicky feeling in the pit of your stomach, little fear maybe, you know, something bad's gonna happen. All that anxiety. Maybe you're forgetful a lot. You need to recognize these in yourself as a caregiver and recognize the physical symptoms, because if you have 2 or more of these, I'm asking you please to talk to a professional about them, because they're giving you a signal very clearly that you may need a little help. Whether you have sweaty palms, an upset stomach, your fast pulse, difficult breathing, shaking, red face, flushed, tightness in your stomach, are these going on too often? You may need some help. An anti-anxiety medication, when given appropriately by your family doctor or by the medical oncologist who's treating, are very effective and most non-habit forming. It's okay to take them. And of course, that's what we talked about. Those highs and lows, and we talked about this yesterday. You need to reach out for help when it's no longer okay to put up with this as a caregiver. If you understand the thoughts that are causing your anxiety, you're going to be able to cope with your anxiety more. And there's ways to do that as well. Do a self-assessment, right? What's all this caregiving doing to your time, your schedule? What tasks need to be done? Prioritize. What could you hand off? Get additional help And again, make that list. When someone says, how can I help you? Have a list to give them. Or have a list for you to look at and pick one thing. Don't give them your whole list. They'll never ask you again. I didn't mean that. What doesn't work? Being Superwoman or Wonder Woman. See nothing, hear nothing, right? Say nothing. No, pretending nothing has happened doesn't help a caregiver either. Distancing everyone, then you really are lonely. Not allowing room to feel the way you feel, not doing that self-reflection. Using alcohol or drugs to reduce stress. Doesn't work. It makes it worse. And if you're a smoker, increase smoking. Someone shared this with me. I've not seen it before, and I just thought it was very, very funny. No, you can't take that along with you. And then if you can't read this, it says, your need to have a conversation about our problems is interfering with my need to pretend they don't exist. So make sure you can have those conversations in a quiet and thoughtful way when you've self-reflected and you understand what those ABCs are. You have awareness, you've built your balance. This is how you make that connection. You do want to have those hard conversations. One of which is about intimacy often. I'm always surprised to hear couples say, no, we haven't talked about that. It's fine, it's fine. I also want to remind you, and I did miss the beginning of that talk earlier, so I don't know what was said. But when President Clinton said, I did not have sex with that woman, I believe he meant that. Because I believe he and many men of his era and generation, and many men today equate sex with intercourse. So he didn't have intercourse with Monica Lewinsky, if you remember, and I won't go into the sordid details. So I believe him when he said that he didn't. And I think that's hugely important discussion to have for those of you who are having trouble maintaining or even having an erection due to your prostate cancer treatments. Because you need to hear from your significant other what intimacy means to them. Because surprise, it may have nothing to do with the ability to have intercourse. That will give you a release and feel good, but it's not about intimacy. There's a difference, and it's important to understand that. Whether it's holding each other or cuddling, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be just about intercourse. And then lastly, as a caregiver, we deal with a lot of uncertainty all the time. So we had a wonderful presentation on information on the internet. I really, really enjoyed that, very much so, and I have a lot of fun. I do a presentation on paging Dr. Google. It's not worth the time. So seek out reliable information. So where to get reliable information? Hello, ZERO. It's right there for you. So is cancer.org, right there for you. So is cancer.net. Right there for you. Prostate Cancer Foundation, right there for you. There's so much good, reliable information available to you. Take advantage of it. Discuss the fears of the unknown as a caregiver. Maybe not with your significant other, that depends, or maybe yes. We all should be having a discussion, this was also brought up before, about end of life, regardless of whether or not you're a cancer patient. We all should be prepared. We do a terrible job of doing that in this country. No one ever dies. Surprise, none of us gets out of here alive. None of us. Have those discussions. That's a lot of the fear of the unknown for the caregiver. Make contingency plans. When my husband was really sick a year and a half, 2 years ago, and had to lose a kidney, it was the middle of COVID. I told you, my whole family's on the East Coast. What if I got sick? I'm working in a hospital. We were really, really worried. We had to make contingency plans. If I got sick, who was going to take care of Neil through his recovery? So that's important. And always explore those spiritual and existential concerns. There's nothing wrong with exploring them. Maybe you need help doing so. We talked about that. So I want to try something. Let me do this first. There are lots of relaxation exercises. Again, spoke about them yesterday. They're up there. They're explained. I'd like to do one. We have time, right? I'm good? I'm good? Now, here's the thing about this exercise. Excuse me. You can do this exercise for 2 minutes. You can do it for 5 minutes. You can do it for 10, 15, or 20 minutes. It doesn't matter. It has benefit regardless of how long you do it. And it really works. So if you all wouldn't mind, and I can see you, so no cheating allowed. This includes staff, AV team, hi. It includes you. You can do this. Not you, because you need your eyes open, because you need to see where I'm moving. Sorry, I'll do one with you later if you need one. Okay, I would like you all to close your eyes gently. Don't squeeze them shut. Do me a favor and just close your eyes for a moment. Uncross your legs if they're crossed, Shelby. Hands gently in your lap or on the table comfortably. Take a few nice cleansing breaths, nothing major. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Make sure those shoulders aren't up around your ears. Try to place a picture in your mind, a place that's just so appealing to you. Meadow, beach, mountain, whatever it is, picture it. Now picture yourself in that beautiful, lovely place. Look around. What do you see? You see the beauty there? Maybe you hear leaves rustling in trees. Maybe you hear birds flying overhead. Look at the colors. See what they look like. Look at all those details. Can you smell the special smells of that place? Maybe it's freshness in a meadow or salt in the air. And as you take those breaths gently in through your nose and out through your mouth, exhale all that tension. Y'all have been working hard. You've been here learning, making sure you're on time, meeting new people. Open your eyes. I hope you feel better. That took 2.5 minutes of our time. Everyone can do that for themselves. You don't need anyone to lead you in doing that. The take home for whether you're a patient or a caregiver, but this presentation is about caregiving. Take care of your own needs. For food, for rest, for enjoyment, for relaxation every day. Because no one else will do that for you. You're an adult. You need to do it for yourself. Be realistic. You aren't Wonder Woman. It's okay to ask for help. And if demands are more than you can handle, talk to your healthcare team. They are there for you. Your loved one needs you. You can't do this alone. But together, with help, We can all get through it. This is my husband with his first grandchild. Pretty special picture, isn't it? It's my favorite picture. Thank you for letting me share with you my thoughts and feelings about a caregiver. Are there any questions or anything I can answer for anyone? Nothing? It's been a pleasure both times to share everything with you. I thank you for giving me the time and space, and I wish you all nothing but good health, no matter what your journey is. Thank you.